All right, let's talk about a story you think you know. We're going to take Peter Pan, strip away all that Disney glitter, and look at it through a much, much darker philosophical lens. We're about to uncover a pretty chilling Germanic legend, really, about the deep-seated terror of refusing to actually live your life.
So just forget the boy who could fly and fight pirates for a second. I want you to start right here, with this one question. What if the hero of your childhood was actually the monster in a story about the human soul? Because that's the rabbit hole we're going down today.
And this quote from our source material, wow, it just hits the nail on the head. We're not just telling some spooky story here. We are performing, as it says, a clinical dissection of a very real fear. That temptation to just stop, to escape the challenges, the pain, and yeah, the responsibility of growing up and becoming who you are meant to be.
Now, at the very heart of this reimagining is a terrifying offer from an unholy trinity. And their product, it isn't power or money, but something way more seductive. They're offering the ultimate narcotic, stasis, the illusion of a perfect, eternal, unchanging youth.
So to really get how this trap works, we're going to break down the hierarchy of this whole nightmare, step by step. We're going to start with the bait, then move to the guy who actually built the cage, and finally, we reveal the philosopher king behind it all.
So let's begin with the figure on the ground floor, the one who shows up at the nursery window. But you got to understand, this is not the Peter Pan you remember. This is Peter the Eternal Page.
In this Teutonic light, Peter is basically the Earl King. That's a malevolent spirit from old Germanic folklore who lures children to their doom. He isn't saving them from adulthood. He is actively preying on their fear of it. He is the living embodiment of the horror of being stuck, forever unchanged.
And this concept, the Wechselbag or changeling, is absolutely key to understanding what this Peter really is. See, he takes these children, and with them, he takes all of their potential, their futures, their very life force. And what does he give in return? Nothing. Just a hollow imitation of childhood that consumes everything and creates nothing.
So his job in this system is absolutely crucial. He brings the kids to the Zwischenwelt, a kind of in-between world that isn't really living. Once they're there, he harvests their chronos, which is their potential, their timeline for growth. He plays this bone flute, a melody of unreason, that drowns out any sense of purpose. He's basically a little Mephistopheles, a junior demon whose only job is to distract you from the grand Faustian deed of living your own life.
Okay, so if Peter is the lure, then who built the trap? Well, moving up the food chain, we find a figure named Samyaza, known here as the Black Woodsman.
And this lays it out perfectly, doesn't it? Peter is just the hound, sent out to retrieve the prey. Samyaza, he's the master. He's the architect who designed and constructed the whole inescapable prison of Nevermore.
Now, Samyaza's great sin is one that's central to the whole Faust tradition: curiosities. It's this deep desire for knowledge that totally circumvents the natural way of things. He has no respect for the process of life, of suffering, of growth. No, he wants a technological shortcut. And here's his design. He used some kind of forbidden alchemy to forge a chronos stone, the very engine that freezes the Isle of Nevermore in time. What he's offering is a clean, almost digital-like eternity. No pain, no blood, no consequences, because nothing and no one there is actually real. He looks at the lost boys not as children, but as homunculi, artificial beings, lab rats, stripped of memory and all the messy, beautiful filth of what it means to be human.
And now we ascend to the very top of this nightmare, the mastermind, the cold, calculating philosopher behind this whole damnation experiment, Iblis, the Prince of Ice. I want you to just forget any images of a fiery, passionate devil. Iblis's rebellion is one of cold, intellectual pride. He looks down at humanity, this breathing clay, with total contempt, a disdain so powerful it has a physical effect on his reality.
The German word for this is Hochmut. It's this deep, arrogant pride. And in this story, his Hochmut is so absolute, so chilling, that it has literally turned his entire domain into permafrost. His philosophy has become the climate.
So, what's his endgame? Well, this slide breaks down the Faustian bargain he's put on the table. Humanity thinks it's choosing eternal youth, but the real cost is what he calls a beautiful death, a complete spiritual end. And for Iblis, the prize is just proving his point. It's about winning a cosmic, legalistic bet against the Creator.
And that right there is the most chilling part. Iblis has zero interest in ruling the world or torturing souls in some fiery pit. His goal is much colder, more academic. He has set up this entire experiment of stagnation in Nevermore for one reason: to prove that humanity, given the choice, will reject its own divine purpose. He wants to prove we were a flawed design from the very beginning.
So, what does all this mean? What are we supposed to take away from this dark trinity? Well, this brings us to the core warning of this entire piece. The critical point is this: the whole story is a warning against something called the nihilism of the nursery. It's that seductive, poisonous idea that refusing to grow up, refusing to face the deed of living, is actually a safe and good choice. This story argues it is the single most dangerous choice you can make.
You see, to choose to be a lost boy is to surrender to the scientist's cold machine and the ice prince's bitter pride. It is, as the source so hauntingly says, a descent into a world where time has stopped, but the soul itself is gone. And all that's left is the empty echo of that bone flute, and a forest that never grows under a night that will never ever end.
And so we're left with this question. It's the central question of the Faust legend. And it's the question this dark version of Peter Pan forces every one of us to confront. What really is the cost of refusing to become?